6:30, call the meeting to order. This is our official monthly meeting, so we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand up, right? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So normally, first item of business is public comments on the agenda. Anybody have any public comments on what we'll be talking about tonight that's listed here?
I was just curious on the qualifications of the person that was appointed and how long she's lived here in the township and where is she one of the developments, you know, and why did she move to this area?
Okay, during our administrative items, I was going to introduce Rachel, and I'll just ask her to give a quick summary and background. How's that?
Okay, that's fine.
Well, my reason for being here is because of data centers. So my question is whether our township can regulate that the data centers provide their own energy and their own water sources. Because it's my understanding now that they can do nuclear, they can also do the cells that they can buy for the electrical or the energy part, and how recycling the water to conserve on the water usage because they use a lot of water. So that is my main concern for being here. And to also, are we allowed to do that? I'm understanding that some townships are saying they can't. So.
Right. So we're going to be finishing up and talking about those very issues tonight as we go through our draft ordinance and try to finalize it. So you'll probably hear a lot of discussions at that point. In general, it's hard to ban or limit to that extent developers and contractors from doing things like that, and building owners, whatever. But we can limit it, we can't put restrictions on it. And that's, I think, the approach we're planning to take. Because if you just say you can't do it, we can be challenged in court, and if they've done it somewhere else, then we probably would lose. Bailey, is that a good summary?
Yeah, it's a pretty summary. And your specific concerns, we'll talk in detail about those actual points.
Well, mostly because, you know, we moved to the residence and where we live here, but if they overuse the energy, residents may not have the energy, have lights out. They also can cost. I think a lot of people look at the cost of energy and water increasing because of the amount of water and electricity that they need. That is over what a regular household would use.
Yeah.
So that maybe limit it to what a normal household would use. That would be.
I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that.
Anyway, can be creative.
Well, I would ask that you just follow along with us. I think we'll answer a lot of your questions through our discussions and finalization of the ordinance tonight. And at the end of the meeting, if you have any questions, feel free to ask again. And if you have any comments during the meeting, we try to limit them, but if you have something you really want to bring up, feel free to do so.
I'm surprised more people are here.
I am too. Normally we have at least, 5 to 10, so it's a summer night, and who knows what happens.
Jackson Township had 50, I think.
Well, I'm certain whenever this actually comes to in front of the board, that many more.
Okay, so moving on to the administrative items, we have a new planning commission member, Rachel Pardo, and we welcome her to the group. I look forward to working with her. Connie had asked about your background. So Rachel, could you just give everyone just a quick summary of your background and interests?
Yeah, of course. My name is Rachel. Like you said, I work as a physician assistant at Heritage Valley Beaver. I grew up in Butler County I went to Butler High School, and then graduated, went down to Duquesne, and then moved back up and lived in Cranberry Township for a while, but kind of wanted our kids to have an experience that was, you know, similar to my husband's in the sense of like being able to explore and those things outside and have that land for them to enjoy as well as have more of a community feel. So we moved up this way. This past spring, we lived on Vista Court, so up, we actually bought Curtis Graff's old house, and ever since then we've been like enjoying it so much and enjoying having the kids, you know, with all these amazing neighbors and all this land that we can now like do some gardening. I won't even call it farming. Gardening on has been really great. So we see ourselves staying here for a long period of time. So it's like this was a way to, you know, somewhat get involved in that and be able to help the township maintain growth, but also, you know, protect the land that's here. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other administrative items that I'm not thinking about right now, that you guys have questions on, things that we should talk about?
We need to talk about the next month's meeting.
That's what I was gonna ask too.
There was some, little bit of chaos during our planning session. Maybe did we finalize that? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was advertised, but it was 9:15.
Yeah, 9:15. Was it? Okay. I apologize. It's probably in the meeting minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so the meeting, here's what happened. We knew at the time that September 7th was Labor Day. So we moved it to September 14th. But then the Board of Supervisors, after we had made our calendar dates for the year, started doing workshops where they scheduled the second Monday of the month for their workshops. So we had a meeting date conflict, and we ended up moving it to the 15th, just based on as many people's availability as we could get. So it is on the 15th. Shirley was to put a notice in the Butler Eagle that says that. So we'll be meeting on the 15th for the workshop, and then the 29th for our regular meeting. The Board of Supervisors is discussing an option for next year, 27, where we always meet on Mondays. It's always 6:30, and we're going to try and slow roll if we can. Board of Supervisor workshop, a planning workshop, Board of Supervisors meeting, a planning meeting, in some order similar to that, correct?
I think, not speaking for all the supervisors, my idea was to have a planning commission meeting that might have something for the board of supervisors to approve, so you're issuing a recommendation. Like assuming tonight, you would make a recommendation to the board of supervisors to pass this ordinance. I would like the order to be the next, as soon as possible after this, the board of supervisors meeting, so that we can approve. Say somebody comes in with a development or a change that you guys recommend. We don't want to need to have to wait a whole another month to cycle back like we do now.
Mhm.
So right now, unfortunately, it's 3 weeks or something, or 4 weeks. I've got 3 weeks now. So yes, to answer your question, the idea, if that's okay with the planning commission, you guys have an issue with that, changing it?
I think when we get closer, we'll poll everybody, get their availability, and see how that can all fit together. I know Tom's got other meetings and other township work that he does, so we'll just have to see. Last time, we just put down, everybody was available, not available, and we picked the best we could, and maybe we'll have to do that with the supervisors as well.
But to your point, like the order can be changed where it runs, you know, whether it's a Monday or Tuesday, week to week to week, like it makes more sense to have it so you recognize something and you just do it next week.
You know, or a developer comes in, or somebody wants to do something that has to be approved by you. Right now, we have to wait for this whole cycle to come back around, and then if we have a question, how's it gonna go around again? It's like, come on.
And most months, we were meeting 1 week, and then the next week, we're meeting again, having a planning session, so it's kind of all jammed up. Top of the
Yeah, we
month.
try, we're doing the same thing. So the board of supervisors, one trouble Monday, the following one, the board of supervisors. Nice, yes. Do you have issues with that, Bobby?
I mean, it makes sense. It's just a matter of coordinating the meeting times with conflicts that Haley or Michelle and I may have, because
Should we start out on that now? Like maybe our next workshop to at least get our availability set up with the planning commission on what days we are and aren't available. And then I'll send that to you guys, and you guys can work from there with your own availability, see if, how you can piece that together for next year.
I appreciate it, because, 25 minutes of attorneys. It takes forever.
Okay, never too early to start.
Bailey's pretty quick. You're pretty quick.
She's really, she's amazing. Probably better. I can't believe all the emails.
She thinks on her feet.
Phone calls, and I did not picture her like that.
Okay, we'll work on that at our next workshop. So if y'all don't mind, bring some idea of your availability for 2027, what other commitments you may have on Monday nights in particular. We'll try to keep it on Monday nights.
So would it be the first week of the month and the third, or something like that? Like
You could do whatever you want. I would encourage, speaking for the board of supervisors, speaking for myself, put down, you are far more than the three of us. So whatever works for this group, whatever some missing, whatever works for you, tell us, and we'll work. I would encourage the board of supervisors to work around you. I encourage you to space it, so you don't have 2 meetings in a row. But allow us, I wouldn't probably, well, just allow us so we can have a real board of supervisors meeting after your real meeting, regular meeting, so that you can approve anything from residents. Or you guys. Does that make sense? I don't know, that answers your question.
Yeah, back to that, we already have our final meeting the last Tuesday of the month, right? Our real meeting, and everyone seems to be good with that. It seems like that would be like pretty locked in, right, without pulling.
They're trying to get everything on
Would you
Monday
guys do
nights.
the Wednesday?
On Monday nights at 6:30.
It doesn't have to be that, but I just had, right now, we have some meetings on Monday at 6, some meetings on Monday at 6:30, and it
Another meeting our meeting on Tuesdays at 6:30.
yeah, so I just like consistency, maybe I'm asking.
So if we do it that far in advance, there's a better chance we can get it than if we wait till January. Because
I appreciate it.
be February, so we can lock it in now, we'll try.
And then there's advertising on it, so just what I have is decided, probably in the
Okay. So next we'll move on to review and approval of our minutes from the last two. So these are our minutes from July 28th. Tom sent them out last week. Everybody have a chance to look over those. Anybody find anything they disagreed with?
I'll make a motion to approve this.
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
I
So motion carries.
It was a long meeting, I remember.
Yeah. Okay, and then the meeting minutes from Monday, August 3rd. Again, a chance to talk. So Tony Leo had a lot to say that night. Got some pretty good notes there.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from Monday, August 3rd.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Carries.
It was a good meeting.
Okay. Guess at this point we'll move on to the agenda to talk about new business, which there was no items tonight there's no pending township business for us to review or look at. So we'll move on to our old business, I guess is the right word for it, which is continuing with the data center. Tom and Bailey gave us a bunch of comments, but before we get to those, I thought Matt had a great idea and did a great service to us to compare. I have to find it here. I thought I had it pulled up. You know what? I placed it on that sheet. So Matt took the data center ordinance from Jackson Township, ran it through AI, and compared it to our draft for Lancaster. And a few things popped up as missing or not in sync with what they had. There's 4 of them, and I just thought it'd be a good exercise for us to go through. And, yeah, this is in there. And just go through these. Well, I think you just had them listed. Just what's better to look at it?
You can go to the,
I
just
think-
the overview,
Yeah, I think the
because Bailey would probably be able to
email's probably better to look at.
talk to them more than me, but, 4 things popped out, which kind of surprised me. They're banning certain uses.
So I looked at your comments and I went and compared them with the actual language of the ordinance. And I do think the AI might have oversimplified what
Okay.
the township was doing, because I was kind of shocked when I originally read the notes. I was like, oh my gosh, they went that far. And then I actually went into the ordinance and I was like, oh no, they did add some mitigating language. But yeah, so they did, I think they did a pretty decent job of kind of walking a line. There were some things I was a little concerned about, but for the most part, I think they did great. And they, the overlay mechanism, I guess I'll start with that one. It's probably the simplest one. We don't really have the time or opportunity to do an overlay, but also I don't think for our area it's necessary either, because we are already working with such a small zone. It wouldn't really make sense to further minimize that, and I think if you went ahead and did an overlay district at this time, which would, kind of further, choke out your area from these data centers, that reads a little bit more into a spot zoning exclusionary issue, because we don't really have a real reason to be doing that, especially because we are already working with such a limited area. And so I'm not, I don't know the layout of Jackson Township. I just don't think that it's necessary or helpful for Lancaster Township zoning to worry about an overlay district. I did look at it one other time before because I saw some other larger townships doing it, but I think for our purposes we're fine with that. For the cooling portion, we did talk about that a little bit the last time. So we can encourage certain cooling technologies. You don't want to outright strictly regulate it for a couple of reasons. One, that's outside of our jurisdiction. We can kind of, regulate use, but we can't regulate operations. And we also just don't really want to. We want there to be some open for alternatives for a better system. And that also kind of lines up with your conditional use, because for your conditional use, the reason that we have specific conditions and specific regulations in that permitted conditional use is because those conditions are intended to mitigate the adverse effects. And so and this is kind of the same answer for the energy generation as well. Instead of doing a strict outline of what you have to do, what you have to comply with, that one is outside of your purview and would be invalidated if you overstepped, you also just need to leave in the room that as this technology advances, you want other people to come to you with the innovation to make a better system that's better, that is going to limit the adverse impacts. And that goes hand in hand with your conditional use purpose as well. Not only do I think it's just, good mechanics, but I also believe it's the strongest foundation for a zoning ordinance that may be contested.
So back to your original thought, which was they didn't outright ban things, AI may have overreached. Does Jackson ban the use of water for cooling?
So they do.
Because that removes so much of the groundwater concerns and all the stuff that we debated. How do you measure that?
So I believe they do go ahead and say that you cannot use groundwater cooling.
Groundwater, okay.
If you're going to use a water cooling system, which one has to get explicit permission from them, because they do start out with, we want you to do the closed loop. And then you provide an alternative that's not closed
better, then we'll accept it. And then down in the water section, you know, if you are using groundwater rather than a public supply, then you can't use it for cooling, you know, issues. For that, I think the reason you can probably get away with that here is because of the overall movement for this kind of ordinance. If it was just one place that did it, I would say you overstepped and that you're really at risk for challenge. I do think kind of because while it may not be, you know, perfectly in line with what you should be doing, I think there's sort of this power of everyone's. If everyone's kind of overstepped a little bit, maybe we have a little bit more shield to it. Based on Jackson Township's language, I do prefer our language, but if we wanted to gear towards something more heavy-handed like them, I would still adjust it a little bit to just be very, very clear that that is a general direction and you can still come to us with alternatives. Just because while we do have justification to try to protect the water, we have to be able to reasonably justify in proportion to the mitigation of the adverse impact. So if somebody came to us with a water feasibility study and their study shows that it wouldn't actually have any impact, it's a lot harder to justify that outright ban of something. So we can work with the language if you prefer that. I think what you guys had in last time was a pretty decent water set selection. It wouldn't hurt to add something else. So like a small one, because I believe Jackson Township was a small provision that they added in there. Just was like a one-liner of, if you're not connected to public supply, if you're going to use groundwater, it can't be used for, you know, the cooling methods. And I would just add in a little blurb there, as I do, just kind of be like, unless you can show us why otherwise, that would be okay.
So hypothetical, you know, I'm just talking out loud, but if we could restructure our language so that it's more heavy-handed on the top, you know, hey, our purpose is to ban this stuff. We don't want you to have it unless you're on fixed water supply or whatever. We don't want you to use groundwater, but if you do, you have to do X, Y, and have all of our.
That's how you have it kind of now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It defaults to your
Okay.
public supply, and then it does say if you want to if you're going to have a private system or groundwater, then you have to, you know, do that whole long list of items in that giant feasibility study. That's where all of those requirements actually come in.
So it's standard course, but we'll get into the details.
I think we'd stay of course. For the same with the renewables, I think that's kind of similar.
So the renewables, we don't have a lot of say in like that percentage. And also the way that, because I was reading the executive order and what they're trying to do, and also those renewable energy limitations or standards, I'll say, they're not just a goal of the executive order. They're also part of another piece of legislation that's moving through the pipes. It's in the House. I think it might pass the House. It's going to the Senate, and that's where actually all of those limitations in your renewable energies are going towards. And those are actually more incentives than outright obligations. You can obviously sign your agreement with the governor and make it more of an obligation, but from our perspective on zoning, we can't really do that. We can get similar to the cooling though. What we can do is say we would really prefer this, kind of, you know, encourage it. And I think the last time I came in, I had questions about, you know, how we were handling the on-site generation, because again, we can regulate what we're allowing the site kind of be used for, but not necessarily the operation. So we can't say you guys have to do X, Y, and Z. going to mitigate those adverse impacts. One of those might be your on-site energy, how much you're actually contributing to renewable energy. Some of it's gonna be, how much of that cost for the infrastructure are you gonna pay for? And then, some of it is, balancing your actual energy usage and your effects on the infrastructure with your, plan to mitigate, which is again why we kind of leave it open, so people can come show us their plans. But if we just outright said, we want you to start using 30% on-site renewable energy for your own, we have stepped into a boundary that is not our thing to regulate. We're trying to protect and mitigate rather than outright regulate with operation, something if that makes sense. I do have some questions about the on-site generation because I talked a little bit about it before, but I don't know if it was super clear, and I don't know if our regulations currently are adequate enough to cover it. Because right now, I think it mainly just we have our data centers, we have our data center accessory uses. The accessory uses include like the backup generators, which are usually diesel, and that's your most common, on-site operations. If we're going to do something larger, which usually the renewables are a little bit larger because they're going to take more, those are considered a separate use, which we need to make sure that we're otherwise properly regulated. We have ordinances for it. And I don't know how we felt about that last time because when I originally brought it up, I was met with, well, we don't allow more than one principal use on a property, so it kind of ends up being like a little like catch-22. I don't know.
It's an issue if you call those an accessory use, you can't have it. You can have it as a principal and accessory. If you're calling it a principal use, you wouldn't be able to have two. And I think it's going to contradict itself because they can say, well, this is our center includes this. And
You just don't want them as accessory uses.
You don't.
You want to be able to have more regulation on it.
Right.
But if you're going to regulate it as another single principal use, you would have to allow a secondary principal use on your property, if that makes sense.
Well, we were talking about the possibility that they could even still come in and get an adjacent property or subdivide.
Yeah, I think that's what his answer was you buy a separate or subdivide a separate parcel. Now, if you subdivide though, you already are working with a very limited, kind of acreage. So you can't subdivide to make your property too small to even hold on to your original
But isn't it the spirit though that power generation is on its own, it's a separate use. It really is additional.
Well, that's why we normally treat it that way.
And I like it the way we structured it, kind of step down. Well, it's another use. You have to get that approved separately. So.
For a lot of reasons too, because those come with their own standards. And I mean, I think the biggest one that I guess the two biggest ones I think of is first is solar, because they take up a lot of space and people like to really heavily regulate those solar panels. But also if you have, a lot of the on-site generation of power are diesel and fossil fuels. And so then you have your emissions and your air quality permits and all these additional kind of things that you're watching out for, which is why I think it's easier to just separate it out and say, okay, this is a whole separate beast, and if it's over a certain size, then that's kind of what it goes there. A lot of the backup generators that we do include as accessory uses are those diesel engines, but as long as you have your air quality permits and you're meeting those standards, that's fine. Again, we're not the ones setting those standards, we're just saying, make sure you've got that figured out, that you're up to date on those, because if you violate those, then you're in violation of your standards for us that you are staying in compliance with that. So that's what we do with the standards. Instead of trying to regulate our own environmental standards through a zoning ordinance, we just try to say, you have to do what they already tell you have to do. You have to stay in compliance with that. So that's kind of how we have to enforce that.
What about the nuclear?
The nuclear, it is difficult because I personally don't know
And that all by the state and federal government.
We wouldn't really have much to say in that either. And in the legislation.
Well, we don't have the power to ban them.
Hmm?
We don't have the power to ban them.
No, we do not. And the legislation that's on the board currently, one of the reasons it got held up is because they were including that nuclear in that 30% or whatever that limitation was. And Penn Future actually wrote it and said, you have to take that out because it's going to skew the true renewable energy resources, and they wanted to kind of limit that. But that's beyond our power, just like, saying that you have to use solar by solar or anything like that. Those are for people higher up than us.
So my company is working on probably 10 data centers right now. And the current hot topic is bridge power to nuclear SMRs. And we're working on it. We actually have teaming arrangements. But I see it as a veil to just hide the nuclear message until it comes up at a later time. Because the biggest outcry, although the public opinion is shifting on nuclear as a potential clean energy, safer.
That's kind of, that's why
And that's making data centers more favorable in a lot of the projects we're doing. Of course, we're out in the middle of the boonies in Texas where no one cares what's going on out there.
Yeah, I would say that shift in public opinion on the nuclear centers is going to matter a lot. But I mean, I can definitely see how it would be used as a veil to get it in. On both ends, honestly, to make it, because that's what Penn's Future's issue was, is that the person that added that into their renewable energy was, kind of putting it in the same class as everything else, and it's clean energy, and they don't have that same opinion, and so they really wanted to separate that out, because they wanted to make it clear to people that it's not of the same class, however you want to describe it, it's not in the same category as wind and solar, and what we consider a true clean energy source. So that was one of the reasons they wanted it separated out as well.
So just to kind of cut this short to three,
Yes.
number 3 is good. We can keep what we have for Lancaster. We would, should we add something in or hold with what we have?
We could, it'll work with what we have in, like how we have it now. If we wanted to add something more of just an encouragement.
A goal, green energy goal or something?
I wouldn't do that.
Target?
I wouldn't do goals and I wouldn't do targets. I would, I think I'll have to work that.
When we get there in our ordinance, we can talk about it.
Okay.
So the last one, crypto. Jackson excludes crypto mining. And,
It's not in the data center definition, I guess. So that's the way I would.
Why would we try and ban it? I don't understand.
So I had a similar question in one of my comments before we got this, but one of my comments on the side of our draft ordinance was we had added all those additional definitions such as crypto mining, and then we never mentioned it again. Were those uses intended to be included as the similar uses that we would also look to restrict over the data center?
Yes.
Was that the intention? Was that the point? Because I couldn't think of any other reason we would have.
We were wrapping it in so that everything that's in
Yeah,
that
and
class.
so
Could be
one of
considered a
data center.
possibility.
One of my comments on the actual draft is that we need to say that, just a statement that says, these uses are to be, kind of under this bubble. So the data center, whenever we say data center use
Equivalent.
regulations, yeah, they will be automatically included. We can apply to, because if you don't say that, then somebody's gonna say, well, this is for data centers, not the other things that you define, which is fine. I don't know if they intended to simply exclude it from the definition of data center, or if they meant to exclude it from the actual provisions. I didn't read that far into it because I wasn't super concerned about it. I'm wondering if they were just excluding it from the definition, because there's another one of these where it says we were trying to exclude the on-site power generation, which isn't actually what we were doing, but the definition does say this does not include on-site power generation because it's intended to be evaluated as something else. So I'm wondering if that's the language it picked up on and is doing that. Again, I don't know if that matters.
So under data definition for data center, does include data mining, blockchain transactions. So would that not cover it if you use the word data center?
It would include data mining, but they were including, what was that? It was cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency mining.
Right, that's under the definition.
That's in ours.
That's in ours.
And I,
Oh,
so,
well then I don't know why they included the definition again, but.
well, no, I was thinking we include the definition of everything you're defining. So I think for us, it's good to define.
Okay, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
So I think you got it right.
Do we include server farms in there?
Well, we do, we don't have it in your data center definition. Yes, you do.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Page
if
3.
it's all in there, then we're good and you can ignore all of my comments on that.
But I'm not sure that statement, I'm not sure that that's clear, saying that we consider all these things that are defined as being.
Well, if they are in our data center definition, they would. So where we actually wrote out the data center and define what we mean by data centers, we include all those words and then we just go down and define the words that we included in another definition. So
The only thing I don't think we'd have is blockchain transaction. That's probably.
that's outside of my,
Yeah, blockchain
I don't know what you're
transactions
talking about.
actually mean.
Well, we could take crypto out of the definition and then it's not included.
I don't think you want to, because it was intended.
Because the noise levels of crypto is very high, very loud. The other thing I noticed here too, doesn't specify AI data centers, which is another one that's very loud.
Well, we just,
Because it's supposed to apply to all of them.
I defer to our council to look at the differences and make
The
way.
same reason we didn't
Well, we
want
talked about
to
I just
have
thought
them
it'd
only apply
Yeah,
to
it's
data
clear as
centers
we-
of X amount of size.
as you
Even
know.
though some places are doing a tiered system, if they're bigger,
It's more-
then they apply like the 11
It's
requirements.
more-
For us, whether you're small or big, you're gonna be under, you have to comply with all of these. I think it acts slightly more restrictive that way, because then like the smaller guys are getting free passes. And they're under the same regulations as the larger ones. So, yeah, no, we are including all those in the definition, the actual data center definition, we're good to go. I was thinking that we had.
That's why I figured you missed that, so I thought, I do have a question, sorry.
Yeah.
It's considered server farms. I did have a definition that I sent to you, Matt. This is the definition here, I don't know where that came from, that's definitely not my definition that I provided. That's very, you can't say 20 or more server racks or cabinets. It specifies server racks comes in rack units. So there's 40U, 5U, 6U, 8U, 48U, 96U. It's industry standard. 24U racks are going to hold 4 units. 96 units are going to hold significantly. So I think the way I had the definition was by server units.
I think NVIDIA's just evolved that whole thing. They got hired chip reduction, so the server racks are actually smaller.
Right. So now, yeah, you've got to come up with some standard.
20 is kind of a oddball.
That was what I read. It was the break point between like what a normal business might have versus what a server farm or data center would have.
That 20 could mean anything.
To mean anything. It's not
So
measured.
you could put 2096s, or you could put 24 units. We have routine small units.
Well, what would be the right way to do that?
I think you use industry standards, which is a rack unit. So you would have to define, if you're gonna say 20 of them per server, that's the one. Do you wanna pick the largest server rack you can buy? Or do you wanna pick a standard server rack?
Put it in some kind of equivalent? Can we put it in some kind of equivalent? So, a 4x2 is the same as a,
Well, I had the definition, that's why I think it should,
don't worry.
Yeah, we have good notes. I think it's on it. take a look at that.
I mean, who knows, they may come out with 500.
I hate the word farm.
500 units. I mean, you just have to define what a server is.
And the other news item was Shapiro's executive order. It didn't seem to apply to ordinances per se. It gave us a lot of power.
Yeah, so, and
But is that just, I mean, it may not be relevant here, but it's kind of a newsy thing.
it's relevant, and I mentioned it briefly at the last meeting, because it's kind of been sitting out there. We knew what he wanted to do. He's been a part of a couple of pieces of legislation. And his was kind of just saying that for those, I think one of the first things you can throw out there is for AI data centers, they were immediately moved from their abstract processing. For all data centers, if you wanted to move forward in that process, then you had to, one, get approval from all of us, and you had to, sign the agreement that you're going to meet all of his governor's requirements, infrastructure development, his grid requirements, and sign your consent order. It was a nice effort, but it doesn't actually have a whole lot of impact yet, I would say. I did kind of include it with it in mind. Down at the bottom, I took out the original violations and penalty section that was there, and I replaced it with more of just a general applicability section so that I could include a preemption statement. And not just preemption, but also to just incorporate any additional or more specifics requirements that, might come from the state or federal level. Because they are working to, kind of come down on these data centers. And a lot of those areas, as I mentioned before, are outside of our purview of regulation, but we can latch on to them and we can encourage, the other places that meet them. And, part of your approval is that you have to remain in compliance with all of those grid requirements. I didn't name it by name because it's not official yet. Yes, we haven't signed an executive order, but all of his wants really need to be put in writing by the legislator to be set in stone, and they might not exist forever. And we are in this period of ever evolving and the super quick movements and changes in the legislation on the data centers. I didn't want to buckle us down, pigeonhole us with one name of a certain type of program. So I did leave it pretty general just so that we could latch on to any state or federal requirements that come through the line. And then I included another kind of vague statement that one, whatever portion or requirement of ours may be preempted, it will be waived to the extent of that preemption only. Wherever there is a provision that is in direct conflict or overlaps with state and federal will control, and wherever there is any provision anywhere that is more strict or stringent or potentially conflicting and can't make both of them at the same time, be more strict regulation or control. It looks messy, and I don't like the way that it's not aesthetically pleasing the way it's in there. But I did want to cover all of my bases with it, because I do think you're going to run into a significant problem with all of the overlapping regulations coming out.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do our best to just, cover our butts there without getting the entire thing invalidated. There are preemption issues, which there are going to be. And I just wanted to make it very clear that that was to not get in the way of any other part of our regulations.
So the one resident, I didn't catch your name. But, so Governor Shapiro issued this executive order, and it states that they require developers to bring or pay for their own power. And so that's the governance that I think the federal government's moving in that direction too. They want these data centers to have their own power or get up and pay for every penny of it so it doesn't get into the rate structures.
Well, they're also making a lot of money.
I'm sure they are.
Building a business that they weren't getting reimbursed for AI. AI is going to do in the future.
So,
So it includes all interconnections, transmission, new structures, anything that's needed.
Now, is that in any legislation in the state level and in the Senate, PA Senate, PA legislature?
Oh, that's really.
It's mentioned, in a couple of them actually, you can see that that's what they're gearing towards. A lot of the kind of correspondents aren't fully convinced that we will realize that goal 100% because it is really hard to capture. But it's kind of very interesting how we have so many different pieces of legislation that all kind of do affect one another and are working together in different ways. So you also have some on the side that don't mention any of these requirements at all, but it's all about reporting, the reports that you're sharing, and the ban on non-disclosure agreements and everything like that. And that is actually trying to make it even easier for whenever you're assessing the infrastructure reports and the infrastructure impacts. Because if you don't have, a lot of that information, you're not going to be able to actually assess if they are paying for what they should have. It is very difficult to completely capture all of those costs and increases, but I do think the legislation is doing its best job to try to capture as much as possible. It's similar to, and actually won't even say that our kind of regulatory scheme here doesn't attempt to do that in part as well, because that's part of the reason that we ask for those energy usage reports and our infrastructure impact reports, because then whenever we are considering those applications for conditional use, those reports are supposed to tell us what the effect is going to be on the system overall, and if it's going to increase costs, and we can then go back to the developer and say, okay, what are you going to do to mitigate this issue? I can't write in here, you have to pay X amount of dollars, or you have to pay this much into a community agreement, whatever. But if you want to give me an alternative for how you're going to mitigate that adverse impact onto our system, then that'll be part of your considerations of, the outright ban that you do.
So does the state have the ability to regulate costs for energy and water usage in their legislation versus putting it on the township? Because,
well, it's already not really on the township.
It affects us, but you're trying to mitigate the effects on the consumers in Lancaster County.
Yes, and I'm trying to do it through the lens of zoning, but in a way that gives me the broadest possible reach, because we're trying to restrict it maybe more than we really have the ability to. So we're trying to kind of push the balance of it. The state legislation, there are several parts of it that are actually in the actual standards of everything. And one of them is they're asking the PUC to go in and regulate the usage and, actually look at that. Because right now, nobody has a lot of power in that area. Like, if you are going to build a data center and you want to do an interconnection application, they have to tell you yes. They tell you that you'll be able to connect. They can't deny you because you're going to use too much power. And so the state's trying to ask that a regulatory scheme be developed to try to put a stop to that. I don't know how successful it'll be, but that's for people more experienced than I.
Well,
The other two.
I'll have to talk to my legislator.
You
Actually,
should.
Well, actually, because I was in Allegheny County before, so I know more people in Allegheny County than I know here, personally. So I have to get their perspective on it and find out. And some of them are more common sense about people in the legislature who sometimes, if they were building a data center, they'd want to make it advantageous for themselves. And so having people that you know, that they're for the people. They're gonna try and protect the people over, and also, they're gonna be making a lot of money. AI is the future of everything. So we want to encourage the development of it as well, because it is the future of everything. Unfortunately, I mean, I'll probably be dead by that time, that it's fully developed. But you're younger, and it's amazing. People show me some of the things they do with AI, and it's amazing.
Yes,
what
right.
they do and how they benefit people. So I'm for data centers, but I'm also common sense. I don't think that the people in the community should have to pay for the energy that's being used by the data centers when they're going to be probably tenfold.
You know, that's a good point. You know, the other side of Superior that I think leans on us a little bit, but not to our language, is that the Pennsylvania DEP will not review a data center plan unless it has local approval. And it's consistent with our comprehensive growth plan, which kind of makes a lot. It's good that we have the state folks trying to help the locals regulate this process. You can't do everything from zoning.
Yeah,
They
well,
also-
that's what a lot of the kind of backbone behind several sides of the legislation are focused on just trying to help the local governments manage it. That's whenever that legislation isn't directly regulating something that we can't regulate, they're doing what they can to help us regulate what we can. And so it's a nice comprehensive effort from everybody, I think, which we don't see often.
So we'll just tell the developer, hey, you gotta get approval before we can approve your.
I thought
And then we'll
that's
say, well,
normally what I do is I
it's always
say,
backwards, right?
yeah, I always tell them, you have to go get approval from somebody else and show me your approval. And then I saw
The
this,
state's
like,
saying,
oh
wow.
man, they switched it up on me. So instead now, you still have to submit to me the same materials. And obviously if they're acceptable on a higher standard or like a pre-edited late level, then I will accept those. But you also have to always maintain that other compliance as well. And it's not just you.
So the comment, does the PA, Pennsylvania, have a conflict of interest when they're regulating the greenhouse gases and their regulations for greenhouse gases, because they're denying coal power plants and all kinds of other types of energy to compete and pay for the excess energy. So it's kind of a conflict within the state having one regulation, a regulation that does not produce enough more energy when we have the means here, not just the nuclear, not just it's everything. It's that we have resources, what you can drill from out of the ground. It's everything. So we're a green state.
The other term of art, that they created at the same level paragraph is you have to create a robust community benefits report. And I didn't know if that's something we can ask a developer to produce. I mean, it's kind of be nice. Like, hey, tell me about your project. And you never get that kind of. We ask questions and it's never.
I think
Is that overstepping too?
They termed that, they were calling it a community benefit agreement, which I don't like, because any other time that term comes up in zoning, you're told, don't do it, it's a red flag. I went and looked at what their COA and what they meant by the community benefit agreement, and it's really just everything we're already requiring. It's all of those materials intended to give you a comprehensive look what the project's gonna look like and its effects, so that you can monitor any possible adverse effects, or like anything that you're gonna need to watch out for. So really it's just however you're gonna use a term to talk about it all at once, the collective or the individual pieces.
The other thing I was surprised is there was a community that was gonna pass their ordinance, this is for Mike maybe, but, and a developer submitted 10 data centers that were grandfathered, and they got away, they had to approve them.
Yeah,
Meridian
so
Township?
that is one of the reasons, I guess, that the township ended up deciding to go with the municipal period amendment, because they can't do that anymore.
Okay.
As long as we stay within our timeframes and we do it properly. But that is really is the only benefit you get from the municipal period amendment process, is that if somebody does want to come apply, then we have a shield. Now, if they apply and they would be granted that use under a separate provision that we're not working on, but it's because, maybe we designed something poorly before, then we have to allow them in. We can't say, well, we want you to be under this new one. But for the most part, especially for these exclusionary ones, the reason it's exclusionary is because it's not provided for already. So it makes it hard to get those other applications in. But it protects us from those types of challenges, or somebody trying to sneak something in that otherwise wouldn't belong.
That's all my input. Sorry.
Okay. What I'd like to do is go through the comments, you guys, Tom.
Sorry, Chris.
and Bailey.
I got carried away.
And try to resolve them,
No red lines.
incorporate that into the final and see if we can
Oh,
get this thing wrapped up. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning. Well, this is with all the markups included that I got from you folks. So where we see your input, let's talk about it. See, for this one, I flagged this one. We needed to find the definition of the rack size. It says 20 more server racks, but apparently they could be 8s or 10s or 12s.
I'm gonna have to leave that up to somebody else. That's not my definition, and I don't know how to define
I'll send
it.
it up.
You have
We can
surpassed my expertise.
add in Mike's.
I'll send you. Let me search for it. Okay. I'll send it to you guys now. I can find it.
All right, so that's what we'll do there. Tom, this looks like yours.
Yeah, we just, again, in the draft ordinance, you have parking, but we have, in our zoning, we have a parking standard. So just fold it into the parking standard, so you don't have to repeat some of the same items.
Okay.
If you're gonna add Dennis under the use, of the available parking is that you're specifying, it'll fold into that table. And it's all.
And then authorized uses, this looks to do also.
The same thing, because by doing this amendment, we need to amend the table that lists it as an authorized use as a conditional use, which you guys already have in your zoning ordinance. And this is just to update that table.
Okay. Standards and criteria, same thing. So you highlighted this long list of things, and I believe your comment, I'm gonna have to shoot this down a little bit to see the actual written comments.
I think I have a few comments there. The first comment that is listed for me, you can delete that or resolve it, because that's what we already talked about. I just wasn't sure how we were doing the uses, but we covered that.
Okay.
And the other one is just your ordinance now defines uses, but uses different terminology. So you don't have a places of worship, but you may have church defined. So you just want to be consistent that whatever's in your zoning ordinance, that you have it as defined as the same terminology.
And then I did include as my second comment under Tom's, that if we want to include something in that sensitive receptor kind of category that we're using up there, we want to include farmers, like where we keep livestock, just because
believe
guys wanna add more?
during a previous meeting, one of the residents brought that up. I don't know if it was Connie or somebody else, but they did say, hey, guys, there's also an impact on, animals, livestock, things like
Yeah.
that, so.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about the decibels and stuff, like
Not
that,
only that, but there's something to do with people were sensitive to different frequencies. Like kids with autism or other issues or adults with other issues, they're all very, very sensitive. And they've actually proven that too down in Texas where the livestock, some of those ranchers haven't even had, all they're getting are still horns in the last 3 years since some of these data centers are built. So they're not even getting new livestock for live.
yeah, so I just added my comment because, we want to include farms and animals for those sensitive areas.
Okay, I think we should add that in. It's easy to do.
Yeah.
All right. Zone 3 is not currently exist, it should be removed. So we'll take that out. We're gonna see that.
I think I went ahead and deleted that, at least on that line.
Okay.
But that's something, Tom's comment, and I followed up the same thing. Just correcting that is something that should be proofread all throughout, making sure that those are consistent. So I tried to go ahead and delete the R3s, sometimes that they don't exist, and I also added the conservation ones, because I thought those were added. And that honestly includes all of your other, like that's just all your other zones that exist. We just listed.
What about the village district?
Oh, Tom did say add the village district, and I did not do that, so you did that. Is that just me?
So we'll add that in.
Because the village district, remember, like the zoning of the village district, the way it goes down, the line comes down East Lancaster, almost borders the industrial district, right?
Yeah, and I like those extended borders whenever you're adjacent to any other differing zone, regardless of if it would actually be sensitive or not. I just think, it's a different zone. Might as well include that extra buffer zone that we allow for those. My biggest comment after that is about the lighting. I think we need to take out this lighting provision almost in full, because you guys already have general industrial district standards that say glare is to be, limited to where you can't, it's not discernible at the property line. And that's all we say about that.
3 candle bars?
Yeah, we went into a lot of
Yeah,
detail.
put candles, but
Or candles?
lighting, because of the nature of data centers, lighting is one of those issues that should be treated relatively similar to your other industrial uses. And so I don't know if us going this in depth, this specific, and putting, this much into it is actually worth the goal, because you already have a general standard that says no discernible light. I wouldn't mind updating that general regulation in the future to be a little bit more, beefed up and, nothing crazy, to encapsulate all light pollution. But I think in terms of this ordinance, this is a red flag, and it doesn't actually do anything for us.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, we already have this in our zoning ordinance, maybe not as tight as this, but to try and put it in both places when it somewhat conflicts, it's gonna cause us problems. We should just refer to the zoning.
I would
And we can fix the
reference,
zoning at a later time, but we at least have this covered.
so where we have this giant section on lighting here, I would take it out and I would say, lighting should be, you have to meet the standard for and reference that lighting regulation we already have. you'll need to do a lighting study to prove to us that there's no discernible light at the property line. But I think that covers your base and that gets you to the goal that you're looking for, and it doesn't wave a red flag of look at them putting on more of a spot zoning burden on us.
Right.
So that's what I would do. That's what I would
Everybody
do.
in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have, we can always update the zoning ordinance when we're working on that in a month or two from now.
Yeah, if you guys want to measure foot candles for everybody, by all means, put that in your regulations. I just don't think for this zoning ordinance, we should have that.
Okay, so we'll concur with that, Carl.
There's some very bright facilities there in that industrial district already.
Yeah. Well, they have
It does seem like a
parking lot.
contradictory.
It's so dark there too, so it's so noticeable.
Yeah.
I mean, lighting is definitely something you want to address for industrial zones. I would just do it in your general.
We could start to see Zelenovos like.
Yeah.
Or no.
But they still can request a study, that's all.
Yes.
You need the study.
Yeah.
Everything else defers to our.
I would just reduce this to a reference to your overall lighting standard for industrial zoning districts and make a statement that you'll have to provide a study, to prove that you're meeting that standard. And then whenever you go through whenever you do decide you want to update your general regulation at some point, I would keep this in mind, and I include there that we can request studies and whatnot. Because I do think, having that language there for everybody is good. But we definitely don't need all of this. Also, that C is said that we can make you pay for light study every 6 months, and that's not going to happen. And I was like, I was going to repeat that.
Okay. Is there a purpose for including that violation specific when the provision is considered a violation?
You can ignore that, it's part of the meeting, and you're gonna get rid of that whole thing. But I did go through and delete all of those individual references to violations of this will be governed by lower section or will be considered a violation. I think it's silly to say that if you violate this ordinance, it's a violation of the ordinance. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
We're just trying to be thorough.
Billy, I appreciate your wordsmithing this too. There's a lot of stuff to cover, and are there provisions? And I'm not trying to subjugate your process here, our process here. Are there? So we were going under the pretense that we're going to try to develop a pretty good, solid first cut and get that on the street, and then we could work on finessing it. And I mean, I'm not trying to strategize anything, but are some of your comments more wordsmithing, or is most of it legalese?
So no, it is for.
It was just a general.
It's
question.
a general kind of like, so it's not, I will get into particularities with, stylistic word stuff, but I did not do that here because I really don't think it's important.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all.
My review of this was almost entirely through the lens of making it the least challengeable as possible while still being as restrictive as possible and discouraging to apply here at all. So that's kind of my goal.
Thanks. That's all. I just was curious about your pretense.
So it looks like the rest of this, your comments are removed, what shouldn't be included. Specific to data centers, but we read along. So question on here, is that resolved, or do you have some questions for us?
I went ahead and deleted some that I found were, I confirmed that they were the general language. And I left some other ones that I wasn't entirely sure they could stay. This was more of be mindful that whenever we are adopting this, these are specific use criteria. So wherever you have language that's reiterating a general standard, it's redundant and it's a flag that we were singling somebody out. So that's why I went through and I tried to delete anything that really was kind of like that general, fluff that we put into our ordinances and the provisions that are going to apply around the thing. So for my specific use criteria, I don't need to explain why buffer yards are important, because that's something that is true for all buffer yards. Remember, we're saying, you're going to have certain buffer yard requirements because we need, it's nice for, screening and whatnot. I don't need to list that for every single use, which we know because we don't list it for every single use. So why do you list it here? Why do you just reiterate you just repeat an entire ordinance provision for no reason at all? When really all you need to know for their specific use is what their actual specific requirement is. And so that's why I deleted some of that. I just want to get rid of the general nonsense, because we don't need to rehash the entire salvo zoning regulations for under another specific use section. And that makes more sense if you go look at this, how we already list our specific uses, and you think, okay, we're gonna plug this in right in the middle of that, how that would actually look and how that would actually play out, it would be ridiculous. And you'd be like, that doesn't make sense.
I agree with you in principle. I think some of these were put in because our saldo is still in process, we're still refining.
And then we would take them out.
Yes, and that is true.
So it's like redundancy is okay in my perspective, because it's.
So, but is it necessary?
Well, this says if they're dead, you gotta replace them in 60 days. And I think that this language came from our draft salvo, so we're trying to advance some concepts now. Like if they have dead plants or insect, we want them to replace them within 60 days. That kind of makes sense to me.
And that's one of the ones I left in there because.
Oh, these are the ones you're keeping?
Yeah, well, I didn't delete them yet.
Okay.
I deleted the ones I was like,
Okay.
When it says buffers are necessary to ensure aesthetics, functional operation, visual aspects of site development, and its effect on neighboring properties.
Okay.
Is minimal.
I just wanted.
There's not a whole lot of reason to put that in your specific use requirements.
Okay.
So I deleted that.
This was actually something specific we talked about at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Adding them in because it's gonna be a while for this.
Yes.
So we specifically added all
Yeah,
these
which
in.
you do need something to address your buffer yards for your data centers, and definitely have it in there. I just don't think it's worth including the entire buffer yard ordinance in your specific uses.
So can these stay in the other ones?
Yeah, anything else,
You're trimming the tree.
yeah, I trimmed it, honestly.
I'm cool with that. You guys all right?
So, as long as you're confident that what you kept in is what what we don't have in our other ordinances yet, then still draft.
Yes, because if you
And
think
the things that are duplicative, then we take them.
Yeah, because if you think about it, what
Say that
I
after
deleted isn't actually a specific requirement to data centers. It's explaining buffer yards in general, and they're not, outlining what somebody would need to do or need to comply with in order to get conditional use.
That's right. Now we kept it like that. I think buffer yards are in every data center model ordinance I've seen.
Yes.
I mean,
you definitely need to have them. You need to,
So is lighting, but we
Yes.
just took it out.
But if you already have a general industrial regulation that says this is the one that's going to apply to everything, it's the same.
Good.
And buffer yards, and so same thing with buffer yards with, you'll also like noise and vibration. We don't have noise and vibration studies in our general ordinances, and we don't necessarily require them seen as something that is really a concern among all of your industrial uses. And so there's more scrutiny when you have separated those out. And my thing particularly is, I'm not gonna make a target for challenge that doesn't actually achieve anything. Which it didn't, because it said, what, you have to be at 0.01 foot candles out of property line. The one you already had says, no light at property line. So you're not actually obtaining a better result by your heavy-handedness up here. All you're doing is giving somebody to latch onto to point out why your ordinance is invalid.
I think Mr. Brennan was just trying to define no light. Which is 0.01 candles is pretty.
Yeah, 0.01
It's like
candles
you're in a
on a
closet.
useless night.
It's like exactly what we talked about that.
Like Great Lakes.
No more light than a
How
moonless
much
night.
land do we have in the industrial? About 80 acres or something available?
That's why you don't have much at all to work with.
And Johnson Township said, okay, I'm gonna take 442 acres and make that available for data centers. That probably created a problem with the community.
I think they probably added more space they could. They did the opposite of restricted.
They say, hey, come on in.
Yeah, this will make more room for you.
Well, yeah, okay, that was a side note, so.
Yes.
We gotta get through this. On that same note, would they be, say we don't add a little bit of time, say we got somebody that comes in, we have a minimum of 10 acres, we have 9 acres left. Could they make a case that we can acquire an additional acre in a budding zone?
So, no. A lot of people try to make that argument where they come in, and maybe they come in late,
Yes.
and everything's already bought. Technically, you kind of have a similar situation right now. The fact that we made the zone available for use doesn't mean we have to guarantee you that you can use it for that.
There's a lot of surrounding farms, not obviously on the street, and they say, well, I need 100 acres, but there's only 80, so I need to discriminate against.
Yeah, no, that's,
Okay, thank you.
fortunately, that's not how the courts have decided those issues. We can't do everything for you. All we are responsible for is to not completely ban or prohibit you, but,
Can they come in and say, we have an offer to buy this farm, we'd like to get it rezoned from rural to industrial? And that goes to zoning hearing board. Right, and then, so they could do that.
they could request it be rezoned. You don't have to approve it, but they could always ask,
That's how we envision being expanded. If we want to allow it, is try to buy, have contingent offers on land subject to rezoning, and then they come in, make a precedent. And that's where they offer us all kinds of amenities, right? If you let us rezone, we'll do all this.
Finish our park.
Finish your park, we'll build you a new municipal center,
That part has, so elected officials are out of the picture. It just goes into zone here. They can say yes.
Okay.
So the next section is the required plantings. I know that this was also taken from Salvo. Again, I don't think it's necessary. Also, I'm kind of a nerd and just noticed that the initial requirements that, it's planted with native deciduous and evergreen species. A lot of these are not native. Some of them are Dr. Sweets and you can't actually allow them to be planted. A lot of those notes are regarding the specific things. But honestly though, you don't need to research those. I would focus on the general requirement you want. If you want native deciduous and evergreen species, that's fine. I don't think you need to list them all specifically, particularly in a specific use section.
I was just looking at that, and I agree with you, I don't think we need to list them all. We went through a lot of tree things, you're saying honeysuckles, poisonous and not allowed.
Well, so honeysuckles, this is the first one caught my attention because you just says honeysuckles, and I was like, well, that could be a lot of things. And I also know the most common honeysuckle that people think of is the Japanese honeysuckle. And I also noticed that, which I do know the Japanese honeysuckle is the invasive species, but a lot of these start with the word Japanese or some other thing, and I was like, that's a pretty good indication that they might not be native. Which they don't. It doesn't have. There is no requirement that things be native. But if you're going for that requirement, no, it's not native things. That's
The other thing, I was looking at paragraph A again, and within 100 feet, can you put all those plants?
I think that's just meant if you're
Can you put those, could you put 6 giant trees, 25 understory trees, like from here to the end of the building here? And all this, that's a lot of plantings, isn't it?
It is, but also you guys have an 80-foot wide buffer requirement.
Oh,
So
okay, I forgot about
you've got
that.
some width to fill it too.
It's deep.
So it's per lineal feet, but it's got a depth. Okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, that's all.
I was going, wow, that's a lot of planting.
We want to screen, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is intended to block everything out.
I think this is Bob's favorite. I'm sorry he's not here because he loves to talk about trees.
Whenever I saw this, I was like, I can't wait to spend a bunch of time hyperfixating.
I wish he was here.
Well, if Bob was here, we wouldn't be doing that. Because he's lived that nightmare 100 times trying to put in his development. Okay.
So we'll take out the names, but leave in the canopy, minimum calipers, and the height.
Yeah, I would just remove all of your big list of options. Yeah, if you want native deciduous or evergreen species, I think that's fine. I'm not a developer or a landscaper, so whether you want to be picky over native versus non-native, that's up to you guys.
You get the lawns on Bethel Boulevard, and they have all the native things. And they know all, and they can tell you.
Yeah, I love that.
And, yeah, and the thing about native plants, they don't hurt the deer. And there's stuff you can plant for deer to eat if you're.
Every plant that I bought that says it's deer resistant has been eaten by deer.
Yes. Well, but you can plant specific to that is good for them instead of.
Put cayenne pepper all over it. Tried everything.
Oh, yes, I can see that. Very well.
That's,
Quick yes or no question. You scratch out the replacement of dead trees. Is there a way to enforce them replacing dead trees?
Replacing the dead trees.
Earlier part of the brush out, no additional fee. Yeah, talking about they want to replace a tree. Back up.
So that would come from your cell though, that they have the replacement requirements,
But we don't have that much on right now.
which is why they copy and pasted it here, I'm assuming.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think they're trying to, if they put a little bit of teeth in this and back it out right now. So they sort of came in, 500 trees, 100 at a time. Yes or no?
I wouldn't say it's impossible to enforce. It would be meticulous to enforce. I don't know if anyone would actually do it.
Okay. All right.
Enforcement's a whole nother.
Well, here.
Yeah, enforcement's a whole other
Well,
ballgame.
it was specific here. It was a township fee scheme, which we do have. We have a fee scheme.
Mhm.
So we would certainly have to add the trees to the fee scheme.
we could put the white fences in too.
And so whenever you do adopt your saldo, I would also just go, like that saldo will also just include a provision that says, these other provisions that we put in here for the time being, they can be reduced to a simple reference to your saldo at that point. So you'll be able to make an actual requirement. But yeah, no, I think just because of the concern that the newest saldo is not in place yet, but you still wanted some of those saldo requirements it to be in place, that you just insert them here for the time being.
So we can scratch out.
So I scratched out that any failure on the part of the owner to comply with said notice shall be deemed a violation.
Subject to penalties.
Subject to penalties for the township's fee schedule. I scratched that out because same reason I took out the actual
no peach trees around here.
So if we don't use a fee schedule, that's a great note to put on for the salary grant.
Which we don't have.
There's a few.
Yes.
It's not very much.
We have a violation section in here.
Oh, lights are out. Nice, Brucey. I'm sure are a lot of plants. That looks spelled wrong.
Okay, so So we're resolved with all the plantings and shrubs, we're gonna take that out. Screening requirements,
The only thing I changed there was I was correcting that the zoning list, but again, I forgot the village, so that should also be included there. I would have forgotten that anyway. And I don't know, I hit all of those references, I was just trying to. Address them as I came across.
Would you say all other zones?
Well, that was what I had originally proposed, and then I think it was decided that they were just gonna leave it listed, so that's a stylistic thing. I didn't think it was necessary going behind you guys, that's,
I'd prefer to list them all personally.
then you can.
Yep.
It achieves the
That's
same
cool.
goal.
So right now we have R3.
We don't
Say all zones.
I didn't know they were gonna do like greater assessment is required by law.
That's coming in the future.
When it comes in, we'll have a reason to change this,
But
right?
if it says all zones. I'm just saying.
All is a powerful word. I was taught that all is a powerful legal word.
I don't remember our conversation on the decibels, the next one for the noise, about a different thing.
We just did the lower line.
So I would lower one, and I would also change it. I think Connie actually mentioned this the last time. Right now, it only covers A weighted. If you're worried about low frequency, you should include C weight. So either make your limits all decibels, or specify that your C weighting can't add more than 10 to your.
Or should also have Z as in zebra. BBC and BBC are both tonal.
Then I would just leave it as dB. For just decibels.
Includes all.
Yeah, all your decibel weights. And yeah, at least one of them needs to change.
Yeah.
I would lower your.
Why have some of the ordinance at 45 for the evening stuff? So
I
45,
think
50.
55 though, Mary, was for whispering level. It's like a general conversation. Is that where we
That's
were?
what we were talking about, but.
I don't know about the A, B, and Cs, but get back to your question. I think it was related to a casual conversation level.
Yeah, the federal limit is 55.
55, and that's the other thing. You said that was a fed. I was trying to remember where we came up with that 55.
That's where it's from.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the output.
So a lower nicotine?
Or just don't differentiate your time periods, you know? Like if you wanted to say 55, no matter what the time, then you could say that there's no reason to have, double your paragraph just for a nighttime that you're not changing anything with. Because right now it seems like you meant to change the standard, but if you don't want to, then it just, your limit is 55 and that's that.
What do you think? Leave it.
What's whispering?
What have you seen with other ordinances? It seems like the ones that I've seen do have a differentiation between daytime and nighttime.
Yeah, a lot of them do, but a lot of them too that I've seen have gone below that 55, which I think is kind of weird because I think it, like the EPA too,
think it's tough to defend, is why would you have
Yeah.
a lower standard than?
That the EPA says you need to be, yeah.
Well, I said just go down.
Yeah, well, that's what I don't think I would necessarily go lower, but I would at the very least change it to all, just decibels, to include all decibel weights, so that we're not worried about the different frequencies. And
I mean, if that's defendable, right, at 55.
yes, you can defend
So,
that.
So most local ordinances, I know ours doesn't, but it lowers the decibel level between 5 to 10 dBs during night quiet hours. So it's kind of like you just set them up a little bit lower at night, just like maybe 45. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't know.
I think one of my other issues with that is because data centers don't usually shut off at all, right?
24/7,
Yeah.
99.9999.
So could you defend a lower standard than what the EPA says is really, necessary for something that doesn't have a reason to actually get any lower because it's a maintained thing?
I think, don't they regulate that more for sound safety, like hearing safety?
But it's their standard, it's one standard, but it's the standard.
And it's for like interference as well. And I think that to actually be harmed by it is above a certain level for like 24 straight hours or something, but I'm not worried about actual like harm.
The state doesn't have any laws for it.
It is a new standard, I guess.
I think EPA actually.
I mean, the one on site, it says here that 70 decibels is maximum 24-hour exposure level to prevent measurable hearing loss over lifetime. 55 decibels is outdoor limit in residential and sensitive areas to prevent activity, interference, and annoyance. And lists 45 decibels is indoor limit for residential areas, hospitals, and schools to allow comfortable resting and communication.
That's the EPA's?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think it's 65, isn't it like, it's a little bit higher during the day?
Yeah.
I think that's the way.
You could, the question is, do you just want to say 55?
I'm good with 55. Again, are we overreaching? Because is there an industrial standard for like the industries that work there for sound?
Well, also this is at your property.
You use the same thing with light. Are we like saying, hey, there's nothing across the street when they don't have a sound? They're running machinery.
For one, you're a little more safe because noise and vibration are topics that we have kind of accepted as particular to data centers that are something that need to be regulated, so there is a focus on it. It's also something though that I thought about if you guys want to, later update your other zoning ordinances that you might want to consider including it there as well, because I want to say maybe they don't have a general noise and no noise at, maybe I'm thinking of something else. But it's something that you might want to consider adding to your general industrial provisions, but I'm comfortable including a specific one for data centers here.
Okay. You good? You guys good?
Yes. The only other thing I would add to it is the provision that says if because you'll do a preliminary study, if your preliminary study shows ambient noise that is already above that level at the property line, then the new standard is that the data center just can't go above that already existing ambient level.
That's a good point, because our industrial center is pretty close to I-79. So, they may have ambient level of 65 or 70 just because all the trucks going by.
Yeah.
So
if it's already above that level, then their new rule is you just can't add anything to it.
Makes sense.
okay.
your next one on, I guess, C. I think what we meant to say was, or the intent could be modified to, an as-built sound study could be performed to determine if there's a violation or something with the noise limits instead of being redundant.
What is an as-built sound study?
Like when it's already constructed, it's like
So
post-construction.
that's your post.
After
Yeah.
construction.
Maybe that's what I'm phrasing
We
too.
call them as-built.
Yeah, we use that, but it sounds like the sound study is the as-built, as an as-built, it's acting on the sound study. But
Yeah,
As-built condition.
it's phrased oddly, yeah.
If we added condition in as-built condition.
post-construction,
We could do that too.
I don't know.
Yeah, 'cause it's determined if we're gonna release the final escrow, so post-construction sound study.
I apologize, I gotta take off.
I'm sorry. I had somebody call me.
So Joel leaves, we still have 4 for a quorum to vote, so. You're good.
You're good.
We'll let you leave.
Yep.
We're not gonna change you the table.
Yep.
That'd be good. You having fun yet?
Just learn on the fly.
It takes about 8 months.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
That's
I feel like I'm on another planet. That's how long it takes to get through 3 pages.
Just in case you were wondering. 8
You
months.
wake up and you're gonna say, clause A.
I will. I'm okay now. I have this one.
It's cold.
Anybody else?
I'm cold. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, I'm just no. Yeah, I don't know what else. Diagnosed. Yeah, sure. That's right. It is nice. It is nice. I'd rather be cold, I think.
You noticed the HVAC's working because I used to have 2 window air conditioners.
They
Couldn't
were
hear
very
if they were on, so we had to turn them off and it's real hot in here, so. They just have, I guess, since the last time I was here, they've had it all installed, hooked up.
It is a lot easier to hear when it's not on too, but like I said, I'd rather.
Can you talk through your vibration comment?
So that was another one because your general regulations already said that no vibration shall be discernible at the property line, which is kind of, I'm assuming what we were going for here. I actually don't know. I think I would change it here. It was more of just an overall note, especially in the future if you want to change that general one, because I don't know how you, when I'm not familiar with like measuring, just like the discernibility of vibration at a property line. I wouldn't know like what's discernible at a property line. But just to note, because I think the goal from the general regulations that you're going for 0, I guess. Those general ones, you might want to update a little bit, but obviously like not right now. But that's the only reason I did that. So just take note of it and also, be mindful of where we are kind of duplicating for any sort of requirement. That's more like an attorney thing, to be honest. So that comment you don't need to take any action on.
Okay.
You don't want to.
All right, that one's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
Really?
I was gonna say, yeah.
It's probably
This
Joel
is
Bennett.
Joel.
In my office, in my house, and here's my phone conversations, so it's in my car. Sorry.
All right. This tended to be different. I don't know. Does anybody remember?
I'm
Which one?
trying to look it up right now to go to that action.
Which one are you on?
It's, looks like I.II, electronic waste. Is that the word that?
Oh, I just added that, because it wasn't written out explicitly that the waste plan should be submitted with it. And so I just did that, to go a little bit more in depth. That's all it was, just to say that you have access to that plan. Rather than have plans for it. That could make sense.
I think we talked a little bit about the term of the qualified professional, like should it be an engineer? Was that the engineer reference?
Yeah, that's up here.
Oh, okay. Because I think that was kind of duplicated. And
Sealed by a Pennsylvania licensed
that was
professional
for, yeah, that was
engineer.
for well.
We weren't sure if it was registered or licensed.
What do you say, Thomas?
I put in the registered, right out of the DEP requirements for hydrology studies.
Oh, yeah, that one makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So we added that, that's good. Residential on the facades and face of road.
That's just on the aesthetic requirements, so it's not that important. I just didn't know if you guys were particular that it was only gonna go to residential uses or any uses. Probably not.
Said face of road and view of R1, R2, or existing residential use. It doesn't, they didn't do this. I'm sorry?
Village would be added into that.
And then you.
Correct.
Do we want to add anything else besides residential? Any need to do that?
Conservation would need to be in there, I mean, as far as the use.
Just make it the sentence we got all the others.
Yeah, other than that, or farms, I think you want to probably have farms too, so, because agricultural will be a different use from residential.
Well, agricultural is allowed in any of them. Isn't it?
It is, but it's the aesthetics.
I don't
And
know.
I guess I don't know that, still a distance, I don't know if that would be important.
How are farms defined in our current?
It's an agricultural use.
So the corn would be upset with the purple wall with data center.
That's why that one's questionable whether it really needs, residential, you need people, whereas farming and business had, I mean, you still have the restriction on how close it can be to the use for animals and everything else, the aesthetics I think would draw off.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah, I think that would slide.
again, probably not, that's not a whole lot, but.
The cows go crazy.
Cows go magnetic fields, it's crazy. So we did that power studies, good. Good thing, that's a cow. Didn't tell him. No, just kidding.
Oh, so for the decommissioning, I did not actually delete it in here, but I want to get rid of the security, to be honest, I don't think that we have the authority to do that. Tom from our office, who wrote the original section for that, he also, the reason he put 125 is he thought, well, if it's invalid at 100, it's invalid at 125, but I disagree with that rationale. I think if you're gonna do any of it, maybe proof of financial assurance, or at maximum, a financial security of say 20 or 40%. I would do something more minimal, because 125% of estimated cost of decommissioning that you're requiring up front, that is gonna have to stay in security that entire time and also be updated every 2 years. I think you're asking for a challenge, because that seems quite a burden. And I'm very uncomfortable with it, because I don't think that we necessarily have the authority to do it anyway.
Well, it's a billy club, right? It's kind of a penalty billy club of some sort. And, but I think Mr. Brennan says he's seen this a lot in
Yes.
other ordinances. So I thought, Tom, that was great.
It's most common.
So he goes, I've seen this, it's just a,
Yeah, but it also depends on what use we're talking about. And actually, the solar decommissioning financial security just got preempted because the state just passed a new bill where they're taking control of decommissioning plants for solar. And so they actually say anything local is preempted already. And they set out the 40% for the first like 5 years, and then it slowly goes up the longer that it's been around. So I was comparing it to others. Most decommissioning plans or regulations that also require financial security are actually preempted by the state legislation or federal. There is actually no explicit authority for a municipality to do the financial security for a decommissioning plan, particularly up to 125%. The only explicit authority we have for that is around your traditional bonds, and the most that goes up is 110. So that's what I was talking to Tom from our office, who did this version. He said he did not think 125 would pass scrutiny. He's like, maybe I would go down 110.
we certainly want to cover our costs, right? I mean,
You want to cover your costs, but to hold financial security is something that's pretty, it's like regular. You have actual regulations that tell you when you can do that. And the fact that we don't have any for a decommissioning phase is what's concerning. Because we are allowed to have financial security and also your financial security isn't actually to cover your actual costs. Those like review fees and stuff, those are for escrow and whatnot. Mm-hmm. To hold a bond for something, like your performance bond or your maintenance bond, that's for a specific phase or period. You're technically holding it outright. And from the very beginning for something that might last 20 years. You're gonna hold 125 of a bond for 20 years. Most bonds, you're not gonna make it past 2 anyway. You're not gonna keep continuing to re-up them. I just think it's.
you know what they'll just do? They'll just make the decommissioning cost 25% less. So.
Well, that's the other thing is it does say less salvage and resale costs.
How about 110? Is that right?
Yeah, 100.
If that's more of a routine.
Yeah, at the very least I would reduce it. I'm still not crazy about it. That would
Well,
reduce
it's sure be stored. I mean, we would have to invest in it and do whatever. I mean, the church regulations are wanting something. Which extended period of time.
There are special like companies that do decommissioning plans because for like your mines and your solars, it's very common that you have it from the beginning. Those are all regulated by state statutes that preempt any local regulation.
But at one time they
gonna sell those.
Decommissioning is? Decommissioning.
No, I mean bonds.
Oh, well, those are fine. The ones in the south are completely fine. That's with me and PC, like word for word. I have no concerns about those. But those ones are, you know,
Well, the performance one, yeah, it's similar to failure to do
your
something.
performance is 110% of your estimated construction costs, and then your maintenance are like 15% of.
So 110.
It's only 10. Oh,
110?
110.
AI?
Can we defend it? That's what it comes down to.
I think 110 you can.
I'd be happy just covering all our costs, but carrying in the
Well,
bonds.
your financial security doesn't cover your costs. It's to ensure that they have the funds to decommission properly. It's not your escrow you pull from, it's not your auto.
Okay, so that's where that 10%. Because we've talked a lot about bonds, and we go in circular arguments a lot of times.
Yeah, so you probably do a 10% deposit for escrow. And that's what you're using to reimburse review fees. And then, but they also have to do a 110% performance bond. Those are two different funds. You don't actually pull from that 110 unless, say, you have to take over and finish a project, then it's supposed to reimburse you. Yeah, that's really bad.
So it's more of a combination then. So we have a security bond and an escrow payment. It says security bond or escrow payment.
So again, when we're talking about those financial security issues, we're talking about like land development and performance of that development. That's not what this decommissioning plan does. This decommissioning is for decommission, like a decommission phase, which might not be for another 20 years.
It makes the company have that money on hand, so when they close up, they have the money to decommission.
Could we say in the form of 100% security bond and a 10% escrow?
Oh, you want to add to it?
No, I'm just trying to get to the 110 without.
Trying to get to 110 without the
Or
100.
just say 110. I'm cool with that. I'm not a bond guy. I've gotten bonds.
Can we do 110? Is that reasonable?
I don't know, because I don't have the authority to do anything. That's my concern, is that's not a traditional, like, performance.
So what if we err on the side of conservatism and we keep it in there and let somebody challenge us down the road if they have a problem with it? First thing they'll do is come in and talk to the supervisors or whatever, or us, and ask for some kind of relief.
Variance.
And by then, we'll probably know more, because it may be 5 years from now when that happens.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's how most of it'll get worked out, and that's why, like, I'm really that up to you. I'm just I'm making you guys aware that I can't validate your authority to do it.
Okay.
I have to tell you that. If you want to risk it, we can probably be okay. And then I also had a pretty lengthy severability clause down below, so that if we did need to waive something, we should be good. We shouldn't get into too much of a fight about it before we can settle that.
All right, so what do you guys think? Just leave that in with the risk that they may challenge it, and we'll have to negotiate up front, or we can relax that and give
So
them
the
a
main
waiver.
reason for having it in there is so that we make sure they're not going to do it, or is it so that if they don't do it,
Oh, yeah.
it can
That's
be
what
That's the bond. My understanding, that's the bond. This is a guarantee that they have the money to do it. If the
Yes.
bond says
No, I know,
if they
but
default,
what are
we
we
have.
more worried about? Like, the genesis of this, I can't remember if it was one or the other.
It says you gotta get the security bond after the application is approved, right? So then we wanna cover the decommissioning costs, because it's big.
But that's not what this does. This just makes sure that they have the funds.
That's right,
That's
it's a bond.
different.
It's a bonding, so that they have financial surety to pay for these things.
But we don't have assurance that if they start it, that they can, and then they can't finish it.
Well, this is decommissioning.
This is.
Yeah.
different.
Right, exactly, but then you have a partially decommissioned facility, and how if they just walk away.
Yeah, that's what it's aimed to prevent.
But that's not what this bond is.
No,
It's my,
That's what it's aimed to do. I'm just saying, I don't know if you guys technically have
but you're gonna put it in there and see what happens.
And hope to God that nobody sues you over it.
Well, like I said, before we get sued, they'll come in.
Oh, yeah, that's what they come in and we work things out, we work things out.
So by then we'll know more and maybe there'll be better paths forward. So,
Yeah, they just asked for a variance.
yeah, they ask for a variance. And
And I actually wouldn't be surprised in the next, couple of years or near future if the state goes ahead and does legislation to preempt decommissioning and they'll take over all of that. It won't matter anyway.
So as a planning commission, we want to just leave this in with the risk that it may not be entirely okay, but we can work around it when the time comes. I think that's what I'm recommending. And then I'm going to ask Mike's opinion. Okay. I think there's options.
They could come to us, I mean, somebody would have to present a pretty good case. I mean, if there's no real team case, so listen, Stratford cash, we go with 50% or something, they're public meeting, people can come in and speak, they tell, the public says no, I'm going to go with the public, unless it's completely illegal, but I'll also have an organization, there's listeners saying, you ain't gonna win in court. Then it becomes a challenge for the developer. They want to encounter legal fees that we're also going to encounter. There may be some, you have something to play rather than that.
So they don't like this. They're going to come in and talk to us and ask us for something different. And they'll propose, we'll give you a bond instead for X amount. We'll do this.
I just looked up other Pennsylvania communities where they use this, and Bradford County has a model that requires a decommissioning plan and financial assurance, such as a bond or a letter of credit worth at least 125% of the estimated cleanup costs. And then it also requires cost estimates to be updated every 5 years.
Yeah.
So it has a term to it, because
You have 2
data
years.
center operates for 40 years. That possibly be
That's what yours is every 2 years.
2 years. And then Franklin County has a proposed amendment that requires financial security of at least 100% of the net decommissioning cost. I don't know what that means, but
That's probably just a shorter way of
we can
saying-
also file liens and seek legal relief. The owner fails to pay for removing.
Yeah,
infrastructure.
all your usual remedies.
Yes. So.
We're gonna need a data center in the township just to support your AI usage.
That's Google.
Every time I get something about it, I'm like, we are contributing to the thing we're trying to keep out.
That's a Google search.
It's gonna be called the max
I'm
data.
surprised he's not reporting or asking AI. It says correct.
It's
No, I'm just
8:30.
trying to give fundamental data points. I know.
It's
But I mean-
8:30.
But you know what that doesn't tell you? What those people adopted is actually sustainable.
Right.
That's the thing. Because a lot of people, we
Right.
all kind of do this. We all we'll all adopt the same thing. And then we'll see what happens. Because we've all adopted it. We have numbers on our
I like-
side.
I like
That's
Gary.
for all ordinances, that's for all regulations. That's what we all kind of do it.
So say Bailey takes all the risk for this one.
Yes.
She said it was okay. Okay, it's 8:30. Can we go a little long and try to knock this out
Yeah.
tonight?
Go ahead.
I think
Are you guys okay?
Yeah, that's fine, go.
I'd rather get another 15 minutes. I think we can close this up. So
Yeah.
I just got
Feel that they are.
2 grandchildren in my house. Well, you have children probably.
So we're gonna leave this as is at
He's
125%.
absent.
Roll the dice when time comes. Bailey, any other comments you want to discuss? We add
No,
these in.
speaker, the red line that you see, I just added that, has to be completed within 18 months, kind of give them a deadline, and then I did allow for a 1-year extension for good cause, but that was just because I didn't want to leave it open-ended. I wanted to give it a time that it had to be completed by. Other changes more stylistic. I also included that, any structures have to be removed, utility connections disconnected, disturbed soils sufficiently and appropriately stabilized and revegetated. I didn't outline particular standards for that because there are already standards for that govern. I repeated the hazardous materials thing. I honestly repeated it a few times because it's a concern I have.
You're not allowed to take the buffer plants. Buffer your
You have to leave your plants. That's all I really added for that decommissioning. I did change where we had that list of conditional use. It was formatted that way because of the original ordinance amendment in the township that we used that template for originally, and I didn't like how it was sitting in this one. So I just made a stylistic change there to make it additional and clean up that list. Down to applicability miscellaneous provisions / violations. I wanted to get rid of the enforcement penalties because, again, where this will end up sitting in the specific uses, it didn't make any sense to have a reiterated violations of penalty section thrown in the middle there, especially because you will just be using the same exact ones as your general zoning violations.
Yeah, so we don't the way we had talked about this is the proportion of this is probably going to be of a different magnitude.
So maybe we can't act on that. We can't increase violations because of this particular use. Where, you can't say, well, I want to hurt this particular use more than I would hurt another.
equity under the law. The hand of justice.
Okay. And then I did include some other general violation language that, in addition to our other remedies, just emphasizing the shutdown of the facility, water violation, stuff like that. That's something I would honestly consider that you guys add in your general requirements if it's not there already. I did check if it was. And then the bulk of it is very dense additions where it emphasizes you are still subject to all other applicable township regulations, state regulations, any township regulation that's more specific for strict or control, if it's overlapping. If your state and federal have preemptive that we will waive any redundant requirement. I like the word waive rather than, admitting just full invalidation. I have my severability clauses in there that any provision or term or particular requirement cannot be enforced, is invalid or preempted or waived or anything. It does not affect any other part or any other requirement. That's something that usually is a general provision that we put in all of our ordinances. However, I do think it's really important to emphasize in your zoning because people grab on for one invalidation of your zoning ordinance, they kind of want to go full force and say they don't want to follow any of it. So I do repeat that quite a bit just because I want to make that clear. And then that was it, I think.
I was cool with those. Is that redundant, that the failure language of township waived by the township we're treating as a separate entity, like it's defined somewhere? Can we just remove by the township?
I'm sorry, what?
See number 4?
Number 4, the failure of.
Can we just take that out?
Provision of this ordinance shall not constitute a waiver by the township of its rights for future enforcement hereunder.
Yeah, because its rights is our Lancaster Townships, right? Township is capitalized here, and that would mean that it's defined somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's in reference to Lancaster Township. So when township is capitalized, it's like a pronoun. It's like a shortened pronoun.
Well, I know, but
Not pronoun, probably. Sorry.
okay, that's wordsmithing. Sorry.
Yeah, if you want to do any of that change, go ahead.
No.
I do try to limit how much I do on that because I could spend hours.
But this is legalese wordsmithing, which I
Yeah,
do.
which is why I do have that.
It should say Lancaster Township, referred to as township.
Yeah, in your whereas, which
Yeah.
I haven't.
You have to define the term of art.
I didn't fix the whereas paragraph, and also I didn't add
there's technically, so like what we just went through is really the body of your amendment. There's always those additional little sections of an ordinance that say effective date of this ordinance, repealer. There's also on here, obviously. That's boilerplate stuff that we'll add.
Yeah, for the third whereas, we need to add.
You want to know the third whereas?
Well, that's where you go from referring to Lancaster Township to township. So it would have to be stated somewhere that township is.
Oh, well, I think I'm actually going to redo most of whereas.
I just agree with Matt saying, because I've
Yeah.
seen.
No, you're right. Whenever we do that normally, we will do a Lancaster Township parenthesis.
First time you say it in the
Township.
document,
Yeah. We do all that.
because a picky other attorney can say, you didn't define what that is. So it's kind of self-implied.
Yeah.
Assuming.
Wouldn't be a great argument.
I thought the pronoun it's, because that's it's, but we own it.
Just two quick scenarios that I keep seeing and hearing about. I don't know if they're covered here or maybe if we are, I missed it. One is some of these places are going in, getting approved closed loop systems. They go in, they start going, oh wait, we can't do that, or oh wait, we can't afford that, or whatever. We're gonna have to do an open loop system now. Are we protected on that?
Yeah, so they do not, that's not what their conditional use approval would have been.
That's what I thought, the conditional.
You would have to come back and, ask for a change, essentially.
Okay, and then the other one is, I know this has happened multiple times too, they go in, start them, and then they walk away at various stages of the project. I'm assuming that's what the bonds are covering for?
Yeah, so you have like your initial set of bonds, which are the same that any developer puts up, and that's your first one is your performance bond to make sure you finish the project. After that, if you have like public infrastructure we're going to take over, we'll also do a maintenance bond, or once we take it over, make sure it's good, all that. So that's for your roads or public utilities. I don't know if you're how you guys have your water system set up, but your initial bond and performance bond has the project to be completed. That other one we were talking about, the decommission bond, that's more like the future thing, to make sure that if they did walk away, say after it was completed, because if they walk away before it's completed, we have the performance section security there. But once it's completed, if within the year they decide they're giving up on that location and they cease operations, that's when their decommissioning bond would, in theory, start up to cover those costs. And that's really only to make sure that they have enough money to actually complete the thing. For like the performance bond, it's the same thing as make sure they have enough money, and if they do walk away, we have the right to go to that jury and say, they failed, give us all that money, and it's supposed to allow us the funds to complete whatever project it was. Obviously, we probably would complete building the data center, but it would help us take care of the problem that exists there.
Okay. Just one more comment. Anybody interested Thursday night, 6 o'clock, Big Beaver Borough, they're having another big meetings on the switch. And that whole thing, disaster going on down there. It's also, through several digging, they have found that the same original purchaser and the same legal counsel people out of Harrisburg, and the original purchaser named Providence out of Texas, purchased that property in Archibald, and then sold them on. But I can't remember the name of the attorneys out of Harrisburg are the same ones that came in under NDAs early last year and helped Big Beaver write their ordinance to get it in, get these data centers in on all these special, what they call them, they're not
Special exceptions?
Yeah, they're not under conditional use. But it's basically allowing them, but just for your own education, you might want to go.
What's it called? Big Beaver?
Big Beaver Borough.
It's for the old Hickories.
Oh,
Yeah,
Switches.
I think you'd be in for that.
switch.
As far as I know, we have no ideas. You get.
Yeah, yeah, they
All right.
Okay, we've got through this, so let's talk about a path forward. The supervisors asked for us to finish this today. I think we've got pretty close to there. Path forward, can you guys, based on our discussions tonight and the changes I can send you my notes, compile this and then finish it up?
Yeah, you could recommend approval with your changes. You're gonna see it again through the process.
It'll have to come
Well,
back.
that was gonna be my next thing. You guys can wrap this up. We can vote on it tonight, contingent on the changes being made to forward this to the supervisors.
Yep.
Before it gets forwarded, could you send us, the planning commission, a final draft, just to look at, give us a couple days, whatever, just a chance to look at it again, to make sure that what we've agreed to is what we see, and that we can make minor changes if necessary. And then it can get transmitted to the supervisors.
And I did send the group the server farm definition. It's not exclusively in the version that we're looking at, but it has data cabinets and other things that cover what the server farm is, it kind of defines what that is. So, just to make sure that we don't lose that element of it.
Okay, so that being said, can I get a motion to approve our draft data center ordinance?
We need the motion to recommend the board of supervisors.
Yeah, well, approve what we've done and recommend to the board of supervisors that they take action on that.
I make a motion to approve the draft data center ordinance with the revisions that were discussed at tonight's meeting incorporated.
And recommend to the
And
supervisor
recommend to the supervisors
to take appropriate
to
action.
take appropriate action.
That was
Good
well
job,
done.
Meredith.
Yeah.
Good job. Really good job, because I was not.
And I'll second.
I
that.
agree.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, so we,
Wait, she didn't say aye.
I did.
I just saw everybody raise their hands.
Were we supposed to raise our hand?
don't have to.
No, I didn't hear you. Yeah.
This is nay.
Unanimous, motion passes. Okay, so that's what we'll do. Any comments from the residents?
Well done.
Closing comments.
Totally awesome.
Are you more comfortable now with what we have than when you came in this afternoon?
Well, yeah, I'm satisfied with what is happening, yeah. I just wanted, of course, I'm the only one here. So, if people disapprove, they should have been here.
Did you go to the last meeting?
I came, no, I didn't come, I came to the regular meeting, to the supervisors meeting, which was, I think, last week. That was last week. That someone contacted me and said, there's a planning commission meeting tonight, can you go? Because I can't.
Connie, you good with what we did?
Uh-oh.
What you can do now.
What we can do now? Okay, great. All right, I think that's it. So, got a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. I agree.
You can second it.
Second. I second. Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're out here, okay.
All right.